question, and this is more from your historical perspective. And this is, we're obviously not going to get to the answer here because it's been something we've been diving in as an organization for a long time. But I'm curious kind of your perspective because you're very well read. And I have recently been reading The Builders, by I think it was Newton.
Yeah.
And Joseph Newton. And so I'm kind of curious, he has his own perspective on the origins of the fraternity, going back from, the mystery schools and the actual operative Masons. But I'm curious really where you think maybe is that correct, or do you think it came from something else?
If what is correct exactly?
The origins of the fraternity
Operative
coming
to
from,
speculative.
like operative or just guilds in general, or.
I think there's undeniably evidence that there was a transition of operative to speculative Masonry, right? You get, the term accepted really developed out of the first instances of operative lodges accepting speculative Masons into their midst. So that's there without a doubt. I think maybe the biggest mistake I encountered in Masonic histories, if you will, is the tunnel vision that Masons or people writing about Masonic history tend to have in trying to pinpoint the origin of the craft. There aren't many things in history that you can pick one moment or one source from which an entire tradition emerged. I think the operative speculative origin story is absolutely it's true, but it's not the only origin, and even within, just to give an idea of how much more nuanced our history needs to get and our understanding of it needs to get, it can't even be pinpointed to one version of operative Masonry that was the origin. Across Europe, there were different kinds of Masonic lodges, guilds, and incorporations. And they all had their own, just like today with speculative lodges, they all had their own flavor. They all had their own practices and expectations. And you can find stuff that's in Freemasonry today across all of them. So definitely the England and Scotland lodges played an important role, but there were others. And so yes, accurate, but also not alone. And that's what we need to fix. We need to really cultivate the idea that we are a tradition of borrowing from traditions. And that is the case with the operative to speculative transition, but it's also the case with other hermetically inclined traditions, other esoteric traditions, other religious traditions, right? Freemasonry is not a religion, but it has a religious component. It always has.
Yeah.
And we're kidding ourselves often with our histories when we don't leave room for us developing some of our practices from the religious backgrounds that the early brothers were carrying into the lodges.
That's interesting to me because, how do I want to word this? And you might not agree with me on this, but I definitely agree that there is that there's evidence of that movement away from operative to speculative Masonry. But then again, if you look at the actual degrees themselves, and not just the words, but the patterns, that especially like in the third degree and things, you see these same patterns there's evidence of that in older mystery schools
Oh yeah.
around the world. And
Yep.
so I think there's an inclination, particularly among brothers that aren't really esoterically minded, or
Mm-hmm.
just don't have interest in it, and so they try to just kind of, shove it all to all the origin, like, hey, we just came from stone builders, so it's a more blue collar history, and so that kind of fits into that narrative that they want the fraternity to fall into.
Yeah. So that, yeah, you hit on a couple of things there that really get my juices flowing. So, number one, no, I 100% agree. Number two, even the assumption that the operative Masons were a simple blue collar bricklaying was the only thing they knew uh, tradition is bogus.
Mm-hmm.
There's tons of evidence of uh, cultural memories of pagan practices among stonemasons in the medieval era. Uh, and you see that in the apotropic symbols in some of their work that look fascinating to a Mason, points within circles and squares and compasses and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Way before anything we have on speculative Freemasonry being done by operative Masons. But also, like you said, you see obvious uh, things that were obviously inherited from other mystery orders and traditions.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of that in there. There's alchemy in there. Uh, Anyone who says alchemy did not inform our degrees is either lying or just has not spent the time to explore the possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Because, as you said, I guess you didn't mention alchemy specifically, but as an example of the other mystery orders that influenced our early leaders and degree systems, it's blatant.
Yeah.
There's no denying that it's there.